Hey friends, hey Mind Wanderers. It's so good to be back to IG Live. Took a little break. Been over a week, I think. I am in my co-op workspace here in beautiful Santa Barbara, California. My name is Sam Led. I am a life strategist. Hey, LA Fine Auto Detailing. If you are in the LA area or the Southland, go check out LA Fine Auto Detailing. Hey, Jill Sattler. Welcome, I'm Sylvia. The best auto detailing of exotic cars and Toyotas in Southern California. Is that right, LA Fine Auto Detailing? I am in my co-op workspace, working late. This really cool space here in Santa Barbara. Hey Jill, welcome. And tonight's topic, what we're going to talk about is your low mood. My low mood, your low mood, their low mood, and how it's an inside job. And that's really difficult, right? So difficult to get out of our negativity, to get out of our monkey mind, to just be present outside of our heads when we are in a low mood. What happens when we're in a low mood? We become judgmental, our ego is very sensitive at that moment, and then we blame everything around us for our low mood. You know? We blame our spouse, we blame our lack of finances, we blame our kids. We blame all these outside variables for our low mood when it actually has nothing to do with it. That's completely separate. Our thoughts are part of us. If we start believing the negative thoughts, if we start believing how we feel in the current moment, and then we take it for a ride, and we don't stop and put the brakes on how we are treating others when we're in our low mood, and blame others for the external world when it has nothing to do with them, even if they've done wrong to you. That's hard to hear. It's hard to conceptualize. Because our brain will go dark. Our mind will go dark. It's a normal part of being human. You might get up, wrapped around those negative thoughts here and there. You might wake up in a low mood. But instead of judging your low mood and blaming your daughter or your employer or your cat for your low mood or your circumstances, we're not taking away how difficult life is sometimes. But how you feel in the present moment, as we all know, will ultimately affect the world around you. And even someone doesn't treat you nice. I'm going to give you an example, because it happened to me when I was in a low mood the other day, when I was visiting my partner down in Santa Monica in LA. Hey Brian, welcome. I was visiting my partner and I was spending some time down in LA County. What's up, LA? And I woke up feeling overwhelmed, wrapped around those negative thoughts, stuck in my head. And if we're not aware of the attention we're placing on our negative thoughts, we end up not only believing these negative thoughts, sometimes we just feel like shit, and we get wrapped around the proverbial axle. We end up allowing our ego to take control of the wheel, and then we're walking around in our life for the day in a bad mood, blaming everyone else for our problems. But who you are is love. Who you are is well-being. That is who you really are from a consciousness perspective. I'm going to go out and look at it from a philosophical perspective. Who you are is good. Who you are is loving. Who you are is giving. Your bad mood is not who you are. Your low mood is not influenced by the shitty stuff going on in your life, the lack. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you're not feeling well. Maybe someone in your family is sick and you're scared and you're feeling fear. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel fear. But to turn around and say, I'm in a low and bad mood because of what's going on around me, when the nature of your being, our thoughts in the nature of our being, it's the same thing. Our thoughts aren't separate from who we are. Our thoughts don't exist. They don't exist at all. It's manufactured by this supercomputer up here. It's like when Windows glitches, and it's stuck, and you have to reboot the computer, right? It's the same thing with your thoughts. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy to be Pollyanna, but because you're allowed to be in a bad mood. But if you can step back and say, okay, there my glitchy mind goes again. I'm feeling shitty. I don't want to be around anyone. Take a step back. Pause. Push the pause button, especially if you're in a work environment, you work closely with people, and you're just like stuck in your thoughts. And you're like really believing the bullshit that's going on up here. Maybe you didn't get a good night's sleep. And maybe you're dealing with the flu and you're just low energy. And then the low mood accompanies it. You will eventually come back to well-being, Our thoughts and our negative thoughts, or our thoughts period, it's like a roller coaster. But instead of trying to fix it, trying to fix those thoughts, those negative thoughts, trying to put a Band-Aid on them by taking medication because you think you have, major problems. I'm not poo-pooing therapy. I'm not poo-pooing pharmacologic therapy. If you really have a problem that's disrupting your ability to function. But what I am saying is that if you get into this habit of blaming your low mood on everyone around you or your circumstances, we're all in this together, rich, poor, healthy, sick, homeless, blah, blah, blah. But the only person you are robbing of just feeling good in the moment and being in the moment is yourself. You can play the blaming all day long. Look, this is not a tough love IG Live. This is about learning how to be better custodians of your thoughts. Because what ends up happening is your low mood turns into judgment. And then because you're in a low mood, your ego gets hurt. But it doesn't exist. What exists is love, really. Loving yourself first and realizing that you will return to well-being eventually. You don't need some quick fix. You don't need to take a time out. You can just breathe through it and say, there's my glitchy mind. I'm in a low mood. You're allowed to be in a low mood. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to be fearful. But letting it get the best of you, despite how scared you are or how anxious you are or how alone you feel. Once you realize that your inner being is love, every organized religion talks about, love being the center of everything. If you could tell yourself that and just shift your attention away from the low mood for a second, saying, okay, these thoughts are here with me, my best friend, low mood, these thoughts that I think are real, which unless you have a pet called thought that's running around your apartment or your house, if you can actually take your thoughts and look at them, they don't exist, right? Your mind is creating thought. And then we got ego and self-esteem and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to give you an example of how I almost allowed my stinking thinking to fuck up my morning. I was walking to the supermarket in beautiful Santa Monica to get smoothies from me and my beloved in the morning before we started our work day. And I woke up in a low mood for no reason. Nothing to complain about, just was in a low mood. Caught up in my thoughts, obsessing, part of the human experience. Hello, Mars Official. And I'm walking to the supermarket. I know I'm in a low mood. I just want to get my smoothies. Go back to the place, to my partner's place, have some breakfast, and move on with my day. I didn't want to deal with any mishigas. I didn't want to deal with any problems. I just wanted my smoothie. That's it, right? So I'm already walking into the supermarket thinking, oh my God, this is going to take forever. This is my negative thoughts, right? This is going to take forever. God, there's going to be a line. They're going to give me the wrong drink. This is my thought process, right? My ego's like screaming at me, like, just go somewhere else. You don't have time for this. So, long story short, I ordered the smoothies from this woman who, she wasn't really, she probably had stuff on her plate, but I was just thinking about my thoughts, stuck in my thoughts. I ordered these 2 smoothies. The woman was disinterested. She seemed distracted, and I'm already getting offended. So what's happening? My ego is turning on because I'm in low mood. I'm thinking to myself, this woman is going to make terrible smoothies, and she doesn't care, and she's being rude, and she's fill in the blank. Well, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The smoothies took forever to make, and so my thoughts are just like taking over my mind. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm gonna lose it, right? And I'm normally a patient person, but I was in low mood, and we all are guilty of it. Whether you are a coach, a therapist, fireman, or the Pope, as human beings, we get caught up in our negative thinking. So the drinks arrive, the smoothies arrive, and I ask her for a carrier to put the drinks in, and she says to me, we ran out of, this is a big supermarket, mind you. This isn't Joe's supermarket. They ran out of drink carriers. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, this woman doesn't want to, she's lazy, she doesn't want to take the 2 minutes to go in the back and give me just some small crate to put my drinks in. And my mind is running with my negative thoughts. It's gone zero dark 30 at this point. And then I say to her, let me speak to the manager, this is unacceptable, these are expensive drinks, and then I stop myself. And I caught myself in thought. Thought doesn't exist, right? They really don't. And I'm caught up in my own negative nonsense, in my own low mood, and I'm being not nice to this poor young woman who has to wake up probably at 6 to 5 in the morning just to get there to work, probably take 2 buses, and I'm not showing any compassion for her. I'm just thinking about myself. My ego, I'm stuck in my ego. I'm judging her because she didn't make the drink fast enough, and I'm also judging her and blaming her because they don't have the drink carrier. I stopped myself, and I just couldn't believe myself. I said, I am caught up in myself. I need to take a step back. I said to myself that these thoughts are going to dissipate. I will get back down to well-being. I'm going to ride this roller coaster or this wave of negative thought because I know that if I have the awareness to say, uh-oh, Sam, hey, Antonio Sansom, welcome. I have the awareness to say, uh-oh, Sam's being an asshole and he's stuck in his low mood and he's blaming everyone else for him feeling this way, even if they're not doing everything that I think they should be doing in customer service. I'm still responsible for how I feel. Now, I'm not saying you have to be Pollyanna. We can't maintain endorphinergic positive feelings forever. We get tired, we get sad, we get emotional, we get into negative mood. But having the awareness and realizing that I was just wrapped around those negative thoughts, that regardless of if she was doing her job to the best of her ability or not, has nothing to do with me. That me blaming my low mood on her actions is not only irresponsible, but it's stupid. And it really shows that I am actually believing the negative talk going on in my head. And look, this stuff's not easy. We all get wrapped around our negative thoughts, especially when we're driving. And that's, if you live in Southern California, you know what it's like to be in LA traffic or, anywhere in California. And we have places to go, but we have things to do. But ultimately, the understanding that our internal chit-chat, our internal negative dogma that's going on in our head. Hey, Kai, welcome, Malaysia, awesome. welcome. Our negative chit-chat, we're ultimately have to be responsible for. That even if someone's not treating us nicely, even if we're in the line of the DMV, which is a great place to beta test when you're in a low mood and being a better, custodian of these terrible thoughts. Hey, studio, welcome. Is really the litmus test. At the end of the day, it's normal to get wrapped up in your thoughts. It's normal. We all do it. We all fuck up. We all get caught up in our negativity. The biggest tragedy is actually believing the negative thoughts in your head and actually putting some meaning to them. And then blaming whatever's going on in your external world. Lack of a job, illness, car broken down, on why you're feeling shitty. If you can spend a week really practicing that, despite how scared you are, despite how heavy your life feels, and just really having agency or having control or having awareness of when you're going negative. And again, it's not suppressing negativity, it's not suppressing your bad mood, it's allowing your bad mood to happen and just kind of like a car in traffic, eventually the traffic is going to subside and you can go on your way. That's the same thing. Or like the tides coming in and out. Eventually, you're going to get out of the turbulence that you're flying through. The same thing with mood, because you can't do anything productive. You can't do anything worth doing to create your life, to create, to pay your bills when you are in a low mood. You got to take a step back. Now, obviously, in the real world, you can't just stop from doing things, right? You can't stop from doing things at work so you pay your bills. But if you are sitting in your cubicle and you're really in a low mood, you can take a step back a second and say, okay, there goes my glitchy mind. I know that my baseline is well-being. My baseline is just feeling good. That despite the probability that I, A, might get fired, or B, things might happen that are beyond my control, especially if things are beyond your control. If things are beyond your control, well, that's the ultimate litmus test. And letting go of that control, letting the ego take a back seat to your inner awareness, to your inner insight that occurs when you are in a low mood. Because we all develop insight. It's kind of like, especially in professional athletics, the same thing too. There's nothing to fix within you. There's nothing to fix within you. All of you and you in the nosebleed seats, have this inner wisdom, this divine wisdom within you. You know what I'm talking about. You're not separate from your thoughts. You're not separate from your consciousness, of who you are. Nothing is separate there. When you're in a low mood, instead of trying to either push it down or try to fake it till you make it, just sit in that low mood and take a pause, take a step back, right? Just pause for a second and just sit with that low mood, especially if you're at work, and say to yourself, they're just thoughts. If the person doesn't like me, that has nothing to do with me. If my boss is unhappy with my performance, let me take a step back and say, okay, he's not being a jerk. Him telling me about my poor work performance has nothing to do with him as being a good manager. I need to take a step back and listen to my inner guidance, my inner wisdom, my intuition, and say, okay, what do I need to do to get back to well-being so I can find solutions to my obstacles? And once you have this understanding really in sync with your life, things will get a lot easier for you. Now, this is not easy stuff, especially when we're stuck in major life traumas, especially when someone dies, especially when you lose your job, especially when someone you love is sick. We get into these low moods all the time, but at the end of the day, you're ultimately responsible for how you will see your low mood. Is not something wrong with you, is not I'm not man enough, or I'm not strong enough, or I'm not courageous enough. Is that Just like the tides ebbing and flowing, low mood does the same thing. And having the awareness to say, okay, I'm going to get into a bad mood once in a while. I'll take a step back, I'll press pause, take a deep breath, and just allow that feeling of feeling crappy just to work through me. Because if you say to yourself, I'm going to return back to baseline, to well-being, eventually, which is love, which is feeling good about myself, which is caring about others, which is being of service to others, which is making great living and putting smiles on people's lives, right? It's a lot to absorb tonight, a lot to take in. I'm going to leave it at that. It's an honor and a privilege here to be with all of you and you in the nosebleed seats. I really like working from this, from my workspace. I think I'm going to do this again next week, live from Santa Barbara. It's an honor again to be here with all of you. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Don't give up. Remember, you are not your moods. You are not any of that. You are a person of love, a person who deserves love. And if you can let go of that, you're one step ahead of the shotgun. Think about it. Have a great week.